Next, we have speaking Antti Karjalainen, who's the CEO and co-founder of Robocorp. Today, he will tell us what Robocorp has to offer for developers and shows why anyone interested in RPA should use it. Please welcome to the stage Antti Karjalainen.
Hey, great to be back in person in RoboCon. It's been a while since we did this. A lot of familiar faces here. Hopefully, familiar faces online as well. And yeah, I'm the CEO, founder of Robocorp, and also a member of the board at RoboFramework Foundation. I guess I missed the note where they said that you should come to the stage in the first talk. So I'm here now. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, we're actually one of the main sponsors of the event, so they kindly gave me the first spot. Thank you again. But I'm going to talk about RPA. And I've done this in previous year talks where I ask the audience about things. And being physically here, it's good to do that again. So hands up. I want to ask, who knows what is, in this audience, test automation? Who doesn't? Okay. Who knows what is RPA? Almost everyone. Okay. So what about who uses RoboFramework for test automation day to day or week to week? Hands up. Nearly everyone. I guess everyone. What about who uses RoboFramework for RPA? Surprisingly a lot, but not everyone. Okay, I did this talk a few years back. I think it was 2019 when I asked everyone, what is RPA, and there was only a handful of people who knew about that at that time. Today, when I ask about what is RPA, I think for this audience we have a different answer than back then. I think RPA for us is the biggest opportunity for growth in the RoboFramework community right now. Yeah. So we will be looking at numbers on traction, on different libraries, and we have our own internal metrics. We actually see significant growth in the RPA side of RoboFramework usage. It might not be reflected in this audience today, but that's what's happening, kind of bubbling under. And so, for sure, RPA is also about automating business processes and tasks through similar means that you use for test automation. It's also quite different when you kind of get into it day to day. The syntax of RoboFramework is the same. You use the same kind of keywords. All that is the same, but then the objectives that you're driving, how you report, how you orchestrate it, is very different. So in a way, when you know RoboFramework syntax, you're kind of halfway there, but you're still kind of not. So I kind of wish that everyone here who already have these skills would kind of explore more and go to the RPA side a bit further. And I think that when we come here, 2-3 years later, we're actually going to see that RPA as a use case has taken over test automation in the RoboFramework community. That RPA is the dominant way to use RoboFramework. So might want to check back a few years later what happened with this one, but I'll come back to this in next talk that I do at RoboCon. But I really believe, looking at the data that we're seeing right now, that this is going to happen. And so at Robocorp, we are obviously all about RPA and all about the open source side of RPA as well. So today, as the main sponsor of the event, I'm going to talk about what we'll be building at Robocorp and tell you about the open source stack for RPA powered by RoboFramework. And so the title of the talk is Robocorp equals RPA for developers. And here's a picture of the stack that we have. And so you kind of see on the purple stack here, that's the open source, pure, Apache 2 thing that you use to build RPA bots. And then on top, we have developer tooling and then a orchestration platform. I'm going to go around and tell a bit more about these components. And there's going to be a few links, so I hope you're going to follow those. So starting off with the open source automation stack, I'm not going to start with Robo Framework. I'm actually going to start with something cryptically named RCC. Nobody knows what the acronym stands for. Don't worry about it. It's still worth checking out. Markus over there actually knows, but ask him. So RCC is essentially a CLI tool that's in the center of all the things that we build at Robocorp. And we had to create it because we had no way of actually using Robo Framework to sort of build a project and run it and package it. And so the classic thing works on my machine, and all of that. With RPA you cannot ship a container. It's not a feasible thing to do since you're always automating something that's happening on the host system. So we actually need to ship Python code running on host. So we needed to solve the kind of portability issues there. So we ended up creating RCC. It's really the simplest, fastest, and most portable way to manage any Robo Framework project out there. Super easy to start using. If you're on Mac, just brew install it and run RCC create, and then you're off to the races. It does a lot of other cool stuff under the hood as well, compressing, caching, etc. And so this is what it looks like to actually create a project with RCC. And this is from a fresh installation, just one binary install RCC. You don't have anything here other than that. So that's kind of the magic. And so when you run create, this is sort of a prompt. You get to choose a template, what you want to use, and then just you have a project and you can run it. Notice that there wasn't any pip install this and that and poetry or whatever. There's no even Python located on this machine. It just works. So this is what I've talked about portability. Only RCC as a base, and then you're good to go. So how it works under the hood is it comes with a few configuration files. One robot YAML for the project itself, and then conda YAML for dependencies. And conda YAML contains you can use conda forge packages to bring in stuff like Python and pip and so forth. So you're not purely on the pip ecosystem or anything like that. So it's super powerful, worth checking out. And so RCC is really, the way we think about it, is the missing tool chain that Robo Framework never had. Like Pekka said in the beginning, Robo Framework's power has been that it's so sort of, well, a framework, so flexible. I think if you look at here, there's going to be a bunch of paths with frameworks in them somewhere. So it doesn't really take any stand on how you're supposed to use it, but RCC kind of helps you get there. So it actually shows how to use Robo Framework. It creates you the project. It helps you package those and so forth. And so highly encourage everyone to go to GitHub and check out RCC. It's under Robocorp/RCC, and it'll just make your life so much easier. Next up, the standard stuff, libraries, RPA Framework. This is something that we've been building and improving all the time. It's the basic stuff, everything you expect. So how do you automate various stuff like desktop automation, visual image-based automation that you need in RPA, SAP, Salesforce, PDFs, and even Java. And so really good library set. Check it out. Send us an issue if you find some gaps in there, or even better, pull request. But this is a big and expanding project. You all can imagine what that looks like. So next up, we're going to go to the tooling side, or not the tooling, actually, the Ide Developer Tooling. So when we have this open source stack, how do you actually use it? So we've been kind of known for the VS Code stuff. We've implemented, or actually Fabio implemented it, not is one really brilliant engineer who builds the LSP. Hopefully he's watching actually on the live stream. we have the LSP for Robo Framework, and then we have a VS Code extension that kind of wraps RCC, helps you use it, gives you access to debugging, a lot of really, really convenient stuff. Very popular at this point. I think there are around, some thousands of developers using it basically every week, like actively. So that's something that's easy to get started with. Just install Robocorp Code as a VS Code extension, you're all set. You don't need to worry about anything else. But today, I'm actually super excited about this to show off something that's coming up later, which is called Automation Studio. This is something that you've probably never seen before. And so we started out by thinking that Robo Framework kind of has this really nice, easy to approach, almost like low-code syntax. So what it would look like if we actually implement a low-code tool on top of Robo Framework, RCC, all the things that we built before. And the motivation comes from the fact that a lot of RPA developers are coming from tools like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, etc., where they have this notion that, oh, gee, that's script, that's super difficult. Well, it's not, but anyway, it's sort of the perception that you have that prevents you from getting into it, so you don't even look into it. It's black screen, a bunch of green text. Why do I care? So we wanted to make it more approachable. And then, obviously, we were thinking about how can we, double, triple, quadruple the user base of Robo Framework through something that's actually super accessible. So we created this. And I'm regretting that I didn't add any audio to this. It feels good to pump something up, but this is going to be a short video just running through a heck of a lot of the functionality and features. If you have more questions, we have a booth over there. If you find a gentleman called Ossi, he's going to be able to tell you all about that. He was the lead developer on this one. So here we go. So first time, visual editing for Robo Framework. You don't need to know anything about square braces or dollar signs or that things that give you carpal tunnel when you're writing it. So it's all made very approachable by having left panel for keywords, variables, etc. But when you need it, this actually generates code in the backend. So it doesn't lock you into a specific low-code mess. It generates code all the time, and it'll help you with keyword hints. It'll have all the arguments on the right there, and we integrate with browsers and stuff like that, where you can just pick elements and go with the flow of automating that thing. Also, Windows will be supported here, and many other similar approaches. So I know this is a short video, but this is going to be actually pretty big in terms of, okay, how can I get started with Robo Framework? Think about it, something that's as approachable as this that generates code. So you can actually move it into Git and then reuse it and all that. Doesn't generate any metadata that's specific to Automation Studio, doesn't kind of hold you in there, but allows you to really start building. And so this is what it looks like to create a new project. When you want to create a new bot, you're presented with this selection of different templates. So we can add obviously much more here, where you can start with a SAP template or browser, Windows, anything typical, or then just add like accelerators that get you started with, let's say, a producer consumer template. So this will be something that you don't have to have a blank canvas to begin with. You kind of get halfway there. This is the editor, like we showed it. So left-hand side, kind of a panel for keywords. You can do user keywords, variables, etc. And then right-hand side for all the arguments. And on the top, you see that there's a toggle between visual and code. So that's where you go to the actual code and back to visual. But then we're going to also add a third panel here, which is flow. And so this is something that a lot of RPA folks are kind of missing. It's code. How do I see what it does? If you're not into reading code, well, I guess even developers might enjoy this sometimes, but visualizing the flow of the bot and being able to communicate that to non-technical users, something that we've been working on and going to be added here. And Automation Studio is going to be a platform where we keep adding a ton more of functionality. We initially going to keep it relatively simple in terms of our target audience, just be focused on basic automations, but then start expanding on it. And the whole point about it is that we don't expect you to write Python code in it. So if you want to write Python, we have VS Code. If you want a low code Robo Framework, that's your tool. So it's going to be hands down the most intuitive and easiest way to build bots with Robo Framework. And general availability is going to come in this summer. So summer 22 is right now in closed beta. And obviously it's a free tool. So check it out. Go to that URL to register for a beta access. And then finally, how do you run all this? So when you had the open source stack to build bots, even using CLI, you have the dev tools. Now you have a bot. What do you do with that? And so that's actually where RPA gets very different from test automation. You don't have a CI/CD pipeline that you shove your bots into. You don't have a team to run DevOps operations or anything like that. You might have a team of 2 people who are building and maintaining these bots and have to run them wherever the business needs them to run. And so for that, we have Control Room. It's a SaaS application, highly available and secure for that. And it really solves orchestration for RPA built with this stack. And it's actually free to get started if you want to go and check it out. It's on robocorp.com on the right-hand top side. Log in or get started or whatever it says, and you gotta get into a trial account. But it's really specific built for RPA. So when you get in there, you'll notice some really stark differences from your typical CI/CD tool that you'd be familiar with. And it's built to be able to use by small businesses and then scale to enterprise. So we actually have a number of Fortune 500s using it. We have a global base of, I think it's right now 165 when I last checked out, partners signed up with Robocorp to build automations on top of the control room and distribute to the customer base. So it really has sort of this ability to go from serving small businesses to even the largest. The pricing will obviously scale accordingly, and the feature set. But something worth checking out if you ever come across a customer or use case where I need to run RPA, how do you actually put this into production? And so this is my attempt to kind of go through a lot of the features of control room in under 1 minute. But I don't know, try to read all the text if you can. It's not as visual as the Automation Studio one, but anyway, we have support for webhooks and API in here, so you can actually integrate against this. Everything you see is accessible through API. There's credential storage for bots. You can control runtimes, runtime pools for bots. Obviously Git integration comes out of the box, so you can store your code in Git. And then bot assistance is sort of an attended bot if you're into RPA. And then that sort of main thing, the bot workforce. This is the unattended side of the thing. So how you configure bots to run in multiple steps, processing thousands of transactions at a time through the work queue management system, and then parallel execution, obviously. So you can shove in 10,000 rows of data and have 20 bots at the same time process that if you're running against slow business applications. All made very seamless through the control room. So highly recommend to check it out. And so wrapping up here as a summary, I think that RPA will become the biggest use case for Robo Framework. So obviously it's partly because, or mostly because of all the great work the community has done, like Ed said here. And the beauty of Robo Framework has been that it's sort of agnostic in a way that you can add on top of it around it, and it's become this massive ecosystem of project. It's not just a monolith that just does everything for you. That allowed us to build Automation Studio, for instance, to build the control room and everything around it, and so really the community here has enabled RPA to become one of the use cases that started off tiny. I think it was 2018 we kicked off. Relatively, innocent changes in the parser and some syntax changes, but it has piled on now to enable these kind of massive leaps. And for this community, it's a huge opportunity to embrace. Everyone who knows Robo Framework knows RPA in a way. It's it's a different mindset, a different target user at the end, the business user versus a developer user. But still, it's a huge opportunity, and I think we all should embrace it. And then, obviously, Robocorp, if you want to do RPA, check it out and use at least RCC. That'll make your life so much easier. And so, I'll leave it at that. I wish everyone to have a great RoboCon now that we're all together again. And our booth is going to be over there. Check it out. I think there was you can have a hat or something like that with a cool logo on it if you sign up on YouTube. So worth going there. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thanks. There's a Robot Framework hoodie. That's a cool one. We have a few questions for you. Can you import existing robot files which were not created with Automation Studio?
Yes. In most places, I think you need to ask for details from the developers, but the idea is that you can bring existing projects in there. It doesn't limit that.
How about, does Automation Studio support importing libraries, both custom and existing, or built-in?
Yes, that's the intention. We keep it right now a bit limited, just to keep the scope sane. But that's something that's going to be supported down the stream. So the idea is that you can bring your own project in there, have low-code developers edit it, and then bring it back out. So it actually, important thing to understand, it doesn't generate any particular metadata that would lock you in there.
Talking about low-code, low-code could be also helpful in other systems like schools. Do you have any plans for that?
Well, I mean, it's free to download, so.
Could the Automation Studio be used to run model-based testing someday? Just judging by the visual flowchart that you showed, it seems like it might be possible.
Yeah, I think that might be a fit for the visual editing style. Our focus is going to be on RPA use case, though. So that's the way you build these kind of things that are easy to use is not do everything. so try to keep it limited down in a way that allows the simplicity to come out of that. And
then you can still launch the code editor and do the complex stuff
for sure.
On top of that.
Exactly.
Does RCC talk smoothly with VS Code language server?
Yes.
Good, good answer. Are there any tutorials available to get started?
Absolutely. There's going to be you go to robocorp.com/docs. There's going to be actually free certification training on RPA stuff, level 1, 2, 3, and really good documentation all along. Also videos. So.
And I love the UI. It looked really good. I'm almost going to your booth and checking it out more. Okay, these are general questions. Let's see. Do you have to use Visual Code as IDE for RCC?
No, you can use it purely on command line. I think some people are using PyCharm with the LSP. That works fine. You can kind of incorporate that into a CLI workflow if you want. The VS Code stuff is mostly there to just be really easy to get started. That's the biggest target to go after. So we kind of put a lot of effort behind making Visual Studio Code really good experience. But for sure, you can use the CLI tools for anything pretty.
Nice.
Much.
How does Automation Studio get the element locators in case where IDs are generated and different every time you load the web page?
Well, there's a lot of heuristics in there, so it'll try to pick the ones that are unique, and then try to go up, in a way that's more general. So ask the dev team how we deal with dynamic locators, but obviously it's not gonna do any magic if you have like really nasty dynamic stuff. You need to be able to then figure out what the best strategy is there. But typically there's a way. So I've never seen locators that you can get to. And then if that fails, you kind of bail and do an image-based thing.
Yeah. Is there any limitation to specific libraries?
Right now it comes with a set of libraries built in, so it's kind of baked into the environment. And that set is going to be expanding as we go. Actually, funny enough, one of the biggest limitations for expanding the supported set is documentation. So we were just talking about documentation formats, how that could be improved in RPA Framework to make it better for everyone. But we have to actually write a lot of the docs again to incorporate new libraries right now.
Nice. One more question. Will Fonda always be the only dependency handler it's paying to work with for new users compared to simpler options like PyPenv?
I mean, so you can bring in Python packages from PyPy just as well. It's right there in the Conda YAML. It's called Conda YAML for some reason. But you can for sure bring PyPy packages in. But Conda Forge is actually pretty powerful. So if you're not kind of familiar with that as a way to bring in dependencies, you might want to be checking it out because it's kind of faster and more robust than PyPy in general. But yeah, just regular PyPy stuff works as well.
Excellent. This was excellent talk. Give warm thanks to Antti Karjalainen. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.